When it comes to life in the ocean, it's a dog-eat-dog world, or maybe like a big thing eat little thing world, but that doesn't quite have the same ring to it. But either way, if you're one of the little guys, chances are you're gonna look pretty tasty to something bigger and hungrier than you. And to survive out there, you're gonna need every advantage evolution can give you. Some animals get fast, some get great at camouflage, and some of the most successful survivors simply tough it out. What I'm about to show you is the ultimate animal defense, crafted over hundreds of millions of years and able to repel even the most deadly of predator attacks. And it belonged to this ammonite. A lot of what we see in the living organisms on Earth can be explained by adaptation. Organisms of a single species are rarely identical to each other, and the slight variations in their size, appearance, or behavior might make them more or less likely to survive and reproduce. Those that do survive pass on their genes for whatever thing it was that made them successful, and over time, just about everyone in the species ends up with that new thing. That's the basic premise of Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection, and it explains how organisms morph over millions of years in response to their environment and the other organisms within it. And adaptations can take many different forms. Organisms could become better adapted at finding food, at attracting mates, or at surviving predator attacks. And that last one is a biggie, because the never-ending struggle between predators and prey is thought to have been a major driver of evolution among many animal groups. Essentially, predators adapt to be better hunters, but then in response, their prey adapts to be better at evading attacks. So then predators have to improve again, which forces the prey to up their game as well if they want to survive. The result is an arms race of escalating adaptation and evolution where the goalposts are constantly being shifted and no single adaptation is ever good enough for very long. Because of this, researchers think predation was the main pressure behind a lot of the major transformations in the evolution of life. It may have sparked the evolution of complex eukaryotic cells from simpler prokaryotes, since some structures inside eukaryotes are believed to be remnants of once independent cells that have somehow survived getting eaten by a bigger cell. Predation may have also been behind the appearance of multicellular life as a whole. Essentially, when all the predators were single-celled, you could avoid getting eaten by glomming onto your buddies, and over time, all those cells began sharing jobs and working together. But one of the most notable adaptations in the face of predation happened around 540 million years ago, right at the beginning of the Cambrian period. At this time, the so-called Cambrian explosion saw a ton of new animal body shapes appear in the geological blink of an eye, and among them came the most significant paleontological innovation of all, mineralized body armor, or as we call them, seashells. Shells were a total game changer. Once organisms could build exterior coverings out of calcite, they were no longer easily slurpable snacks for Cambrian predators like Anomalocaris and early fish. This armor then forced the predators to up their game by evolving stuff like teeth and jaws capable of cracking the shells. So from the earliest moments of the Cambrian explosion, predator and armored prey became locked in an evolutionary arms race that would last through the ages. It's worth noting that the evolution of shells was a game changer for modern paleontologists too. Before animals donned their mineralized armor, they were pretty much just soft, squishy organic tissues that rotted away quickly, making them super hard to find in the fossil record. But shells stick around, even when the animals that built them have died and decayed. So from the moment animals invented their calcium homes, paleontologists had a tool to track the evolution of life a lot more easily. And that's why we know so much more about life after the Cambrian than we'll probably ever know about before. But now let's fast forward about 120 million years to the early Devonian period, and the predator-prey arms race has resulted in shells being wielded by all manner of sea creatures, including an evolutionary marvel known as an ammonoid. Ammonoids were a group of mollusks related to oysters and octopuses, and they were remarkably successful in their time. They thrived in Earth's oceans for over 350 million years, more than twice as long as the reign of dinosaurs, and thanks in part to adaptations that help them survive even the most ferocious predators. In general, you can spot an ammonoid by its flattish, multi-chambered spiral shell made from calcium carbonate. As the animal grew, it would add a new chamber to the outer part of the shell. The animal always lived in that outermost chamber, giving it access to the wide world as well as protection. And those smaller inner chambers weren't completely abandoned. A tube-like structure called a siphuncle wound back through all of the chambers, allowing the animal to pump water in and out to control its buoyancy and move up or down in the water. These animals also had tentacles that reached out of their shells. They used a jet of water to propel themselves through the water, shell first, and were basically swimming blind. And those shells were what really set the ammonoids apart. Some shells are smooth and simple, like perfectly skippable stones, while others were covered in bumps, spikes, nodules, horns, you name it. Over time, the ammonoids increased the complexity of where their chamber walls, called septa, met the outer shell, creating distinctive suture lines. Using these suture lines, researchers can classify ammonoids into three major groups. There's the goniotites of the Devonian to Permian periods with smooth and simple sutures, the ceratites of the Permian and Triassic with a lobe and saddle-shaped suture, and the ammonites of the Jurassic and Cretaceous with a highly complex, frilly-looking suture. There are at least 10,000 species of ammonoids, and they were distinct enough that researchers can use them as index fossils to tell the age of the rock they're found in, which is incredibly helpful to paleontologists. But let's not forget the real reason for all the ammonoids' wild variability: adaptation in the face of a mortal threat. We know that ammonoids' protective adaptations worked, not only because their lineage survived for hundreds of millions of years, but also because we have direct evidence that these shells got the job done. Specifically, we have evidence in the form of bite marks in the shells from mosasaurs. Mosasaurs were the aquatic, not dinosaur reptiles that roamed the oceans during the late Cretaceous, while their dinosaur cousins stomped around on the land. Most mosasaurs were large, and the biggest were up to 15 meters, about the size of an adult humpback whale. Unlike whales, however, these ancient reptiles went after much larger prey, and had double-hinged jaws that could open wide to swallow prey whole. For the more bite-sized meals, they also had pointed dagger-like teeth that could grip hard onto prey to stop it from escaping. They were the apex predators of the Cretaceous seas, and would feed on fish, mollusks, and even other reptiles. And it seems they also had a taste for ammonites, because a lot of ammonite shells have been found with circular puncture marks that match the size and arrangement of mosasaur teeth. Hundreds of individual examples have been described and studied from North America alone, and the punctures are so common that in some places up to 10% of all ammonite finds have bite marks. So you might be thinking, well, that doesn't sound like the shells were working. The ammonites got bit. Like, a lot. But the thing is, we think these attacks weren't fatal, and the ammonites tended to survive these encounters. The punctures are often surface level and don't pierce all the way through to the interior chambers, and in some cases the wounds appear to have partially healed as well. All of this goes to show just how powerful a shell defense is and how effectively the ammonites had perfected it. But what's especially weird is that ammonite fossils from the rest of the world don't all bear the scars of mosasaur attack. The bite marks appear to be limited to ammonites in certain North American fossil layers. Researchers have speculated that food was scarcer in these places than it was elsewhere, which forced the mosasaurs to eat more ammonites than they would if there were better options. It's kind of like when you're on a long road trip and all you can find is gas station snack food. I mean, sure, you'll eat it, but it just doesn't really hit the spot. So not only were ammonite shells an effective defense when needed, they may also have been so off-putting that they made ammonites unappetizing everywhere else too. In the end, neither predator nor prey won in this evolutionary arms race, because both the ammonites and the mosasaurs were wiped out in the end Cretaceous mass extinction 66 million years ago. Yeah, that asteroid impact wasn't just bad for the dinosaurs. In this case, researchers think that the reason for the ammonites' downfall was ocean acidification. Mass burning and other air pollution caused by the impact would have increased increased the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This extra CO2 would have dissolved into natural waters, making the rain and oceans more acidic, which is also happening now with the whole, climate crisis. Ocean acidification is bad news for anything that makes a shell or a structure out of calcium carbonate, because calcium carbonate dissolves in acid. So while their shells had been so effective at repelling predators in the water, they met their match with the water itself. It's likely that this process would have been especially damaging to juveniles, which floated freely in the oceans and had thinner shells, more easily attacked by acid. But of course, ocean acidification wasn't the only problem facing life in the seas at this time. Smoke, debris, and particulates thrown up by the impact would have dimmed the skies and lowered temperatures, creating an impact winter that lasted for 15 years. Without sunlight, plants were unable to grow, causing the food chains that relied on them to collapse. This is most likely what led to the extinction of the Mosasaurs, alongside other giant reptilian predators, but the overall lack of food wouldn't have done the ammonites any favors either. So whether as a result of acid or starvation, the ammonoids disappeared from Earth's oceans at the beginning of the Paleogene. But their incredibly successful time on Earth, as well as their conveniently mineralized defensive shells, has left us with a rich picture of their adaptive legacy, a legacy which could only exist thanks to the ultimate predatory defense system, a seashell. And SciShow Rocks Box subscribers can look forward to receiving their own piece of that legacy with an ammonite from the late Jurassic period. These ammonites are from the genus Parasphinctes and were found in Madagascar. While these specific ammonites predate the Mosasaurs by a few million years, their descendants were possibly swimming around and dodging sea monsters thanks to the shells that evolution gave them. If you want to learn more or just peruse our a la carte rock options, head over to scishow.rocks, and thanks for watching.